In this module, we are going to take a look at financing. What is financing? How do we do it? What's the point of it, right? So my first question to you is, what is financing? And frankly, what is not financing? So when you think about financing something, you're financing a house, you're financing a car, your customers are financing their flooring job. What does that mean exactly? Well, first of all, financing is simply a financial term that describes the lending of money to a customer that uses that money or uses that capital to purchase a specific vendor's product or service. All right, so that's fairly plain vanilla definition for financing. At the end of the day, what this means is that a customer doesn't use their own money to make a purchase. They use somebody else's money to make a purchase, and then they pay that money back over a period of time, based on an agreed upon program. So what are some of these programs? Well, I'm sure you've seen these before in your background. You've got no interest, no payment options. Some people will call this same as cash options. So for example, someone might buy a floor and you give them 6 months to pay or 12 months to pay with no interest at all. So I could buy a floor today and I could pay for this floor a year from now at the same price, no interest, no payments, just pay it off all in one lump sum 12 months from now. There are payment plans. So instead of doing it as one lump sum, maybe it's a 36 months at a 9.99% interest, or 48 months, or 84 months, who knows, right? Because you can get into extended payment terms out. There are programs out there for 120 months. There are programs out there for 144 months. And maybe that's at a higher interest rate. Maybe it's at a lower interest rate. There's a ton of different programs that are out there. But it's important to understand that you're meeting the customer's need for how they want to pay for the floor. It's also important for you to understand that financing is not done from your bank account. So let's be really, really clear here. When we're talking about financing, no one is suggesting that you do a floor for a customer and then you turn around and say, okay, well, I'm going to suck that up and I'm going to float that for 6 months and hope that somebody pays me at the end. That is not what is happening here, and that is not recommended at all. On the contrary, there are third-party financing providers like Wells Fargo, Advantial, Foundation Finance, Service Finance, GreenSky. There's a ton of these people out there. Aqua. There's a ton of these financing partners out there where you simply sign up with them. You sign up to get an account with them, and you offer financing to your customer through that company. When the job is complete, the finance company pays you, and then it's up to the finance company to collect from the customer, and you're out of it. Okay, so that's the beauty of financing. Is it's not your money that's getting tied up, it's not the customer's money that's getting tied up, it's a financing company's money that gets tied up. And frankly, once the job is complete, the financing company is going to work with the customer to get their money back. So it's done through a finance company. Now I'm going to ask this question: who is it that would use financing? So I want you to think about this for just a moment. When you roll up to a house and you're going to present a flooring proposal to a customer, do you know that they want to use financing? Probably not. Just because you pulled into a home where the home is maybe in a lower income part of town, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to want to use financing. Just because you pulled up to a $3 million home doesn't mean that they're not going to use financing. Okay, there's no way to predetermine whether or not a customer is going to use financing, because quite frankly, there's a lot of different customers that use financing for a lot of different reasons. First of all, you might have that customer that needs a little extra time to pay for their project, so they don't have all the money up front. You're offering a $20,000 flooring project and they just don't have 20 grand laying around. So maybe they offer part of it as a upfront down payment, and they're going to finance the rest. They just need a little extra time, a couple of years maybe to pay off the rest. There might be a customer that has a set monthly budget. So I can't, I have a monthly budget, and for the flooring part of my budget, I can spend $300 a month. So if you can find a floor that fits inside of $300 a month, winner, winner. I will tell you right now, there is a company in my area that is promoting bathroom remodels. Well, a bathroom remodel, if you're talking about doing a floor, a shower, vanity, mirror, I mean, they're talking about entire bathroom remodels. These could be $20,000 or $30,000 projects, right? That's what this company does. They do bathroom remodels. It's interesting, the commercial that they're running right now says that we can do a full bathroom remodel for you for as little as $99 a month. That's their whole ad campaign. We could do a complete bathroom remodel for you for as little as $99 a month. Book for your free consultation today. And that's their entire commercial. It's all based on this idea that they can get whatever their program is, that they can get a job done for $99 a month. They don't, in the advertisement, they don't talk about the finance, they don't talk about the interest rate, they don't talk about the program or how long you're going to have to pay for it or what the total price of the project is. They are simply trying to appeal to that person that has a set monthly budget that could afford to set aside $100 a month to get a new bathroom. There are also customers that really want to preserve cash flow. So here's a case. I mean, you look at your own personal situation. Would you ever sign up to do a flooring project or to finance a flooring project and spread that payment over 144 months? I mean, would you ever do that where you were spreading out a payment over 12 years to pay for a flooring project? And for many of you, the answer is no, I'd never do that. But consider this. If you were trying to flip a house, you bought a home and all you're trying to do is flip it, it might be the most important thing to you is cash flow. So if you can make the payment on that flooring project really, really low, man, I could get this payment down to like $30 a month if I spread it out over 12 years. That's great because I know that in the end, I'm not going to take 12 years to pay it off. I'm going to flip this house. I'm going to spend what, 3 or 4 months flipping it? Maybe if you got it down to $30 a month, maybe I've spent $120 for this floor. And then we turn around and sell the house. And from the proceeds of the house, we pay off the loan. So people that are trying to preserve cash flow understand what it means to be able to use somebody else's money to get projects done. And then, if you're flipping a house or selling a house, then use the proceeds from the house to pay for the loan. This is just smart money management. It has nothing to do with whether or not this person has any money in the bank. It's just smart money management. Customers that know how to use other people's money. So you might, who knows, you might be doing a floor for an investment venture capitalist, who knows. The $20,000 floor that you're pitching them, if you offer them 12 months, same as cash, that's fantastic because they can take that 20,000, invest it in the market. Maybe in a year's time, they've turned that 20,000 into 24,000. The 20,000 at the end of the year, they turn around and pay the finance company the $4,000 they pocket. So people that know how to really leverage other people's money understand the value of financing for them. So my point is, there's 2 points. First of all, don't prejudge whether or not a customer is going to use financing or why they're going to use financing. Financing is not necessarily, oh, this person doesn't have enough money to pay for the job. Not necessarily. This person might have a ton of money and they understand how to use other people's money to get what they're looking to do. The other point that I make is oftentimes you don't lose to the competition because of price, but you lose because somebody else gives them a better way to buy. So there are franchisees out there. When you go to a convention, when you meet up with people at different events, you will meet franchisees that absolutely hate using financing. And the reason they say that is because they say, well, financing costs me money. Every time I finance, I've got to pay a 5% dealer fee or a 10% dealer fee or 2% dealer fee. Absolutely not, right? I want to show you that financing actually pays for itself. Yes, there's a dealer fee. Yes, there's a cost associated with using financing, but I want to show you that financing typically will pay for itself. There was a study that we did in 2021, probably time to update the study, but we surveyed a bunch of franchise owners that use financing, a bunch of franchise owners that don't. We went back and looked at the data and we found at that time that the average job size without financing was $5,500. But for those businesses that offered financing, they had a $6,655 average job size. So those those businesses, those locations that did not use financing had a lower average job size than those that did. Okay, there could be a lot of different factors, but you'll also talk, when you talk to finance companies and when you talk to owners that do use financing, they will tell you that you get a bigger average job size when you offer financing because people see that they can do more with their money. You will land more jobs. You will have a minimum 5% higher close rate. And that's an extremely conservative number. I would expect that it would be actually a good bit higher than that. But you know what? I'm going to stick with just the minimum and be very conservative with this. Dealer fees are often offset by the higher revenues and the bigger jobs. So I'm going to work you through an example. Again, this study was done in 2021. So the data is a little bit dated, but it's still a valid conclusion. And I want to show you how you could add $42,592 to your business, that amount of profit to your business. We did a study of a bunch of different franchise locations, and these were franchise locations that were specifically using foundation finance. Okay, so and what we found was the amount that was financed versus the amount that wasn't financed. And again, we found that there was a bigger average job size. Okay, so let's just set the scenario up. Can you afford it? Well, I'm going to show you a business plan built on an average job size of 5,500, which today is very, very conservative. An average job size of 5,500 with a 55% cost of goods sold. In other words, this is a 45% gross margin. So 45% margin, 55% cost of goods sold. Again, very conservative on the gross margin. So 55% average cost of goods sold. So if I have an average job size of 5,500 with a 55% cost of goods sold, I've got a profit of $2,475 on average for each job, right? We found that the average finance job is 21% larger. So that's at $6,655. Again, a 55% cost of goods sold, that doesn't change. So, but what does change is, let's say on average, you got 5% finance fees. So now what happens? You've got a higher profit on the job. There's $187 worth of additional profit on these jobs that were financed. So let's roll this out for a year, okay? And again, I'm going to look at this in a very, very conservative way. I don't want to make it seem like I'm trying to oversell financing or whatever. So we're going to keep this really, really straightforward and very basic on the numbers. You can run the numbers for yourself with some different assumptions, and you'll see that actually financing is probably going to add even more to your bottom line. So scenario number one, everybody pays cash. So let's say over the course of a year, I write 325 proposals at a very conservative 30% close rate. That's 98 jobs landed. Well, those 98 jobs at a $5,500 average job size accounts for $539,000 worth of total revenue. At a 45% gross profit, remember we said 55% cost of goods sold, 45% gross profit, that's $242,000. What is the acquisition cost for these customers? How much did I spend on marketing to get them? Well, let's say that I spent 10% marketing on them, okay? So 10% marketing on them, I round it up to $54,000, okay? So that means that my net profit on these jobs is $188,550. Not a bad number, but let's see if we can increase it. Scenario number two, there are others that don't pay cash. So I'm still going to land the 30%. I'm still going to land the 98 jobs that don't use financing. I'm still going to get those cash customers. But in addition to that, I'm also going to get customers that use financing. So I'm going to land a 5% better close rate at a minimum. So that's 114 jobs, but 98 of those jobs were cash jobs, right? 98 of those, $550K, or excuse me, $5,500 average job size. The additional 16 jobs, I'm going to bump up to a 6,655. And again, this is extremely conservative because what we found by studying the franchisees that use financing is on average, all of their finance, the whole business had a higher average job size. So this is assuming that it's only the financing jobs that had an average job size. But anyway, on average, let's just say, again, being conservative, that it's only the 16 jobs that were at an average job size. So that being the case, we now have a total revenue of just over 645,000. Same gross profit percentage, so 290K in the bank, right? Except we still have to spend the marketing. Well, but on the marketing, I don't need to spend extra marketing to pick up these other customers. So this marketing spend is what allowed me to write 325 proposals. It's the same marketing spend to get to 325 proposals. So I don't need to spend more marketing money to get to the same customers. The higher close rate is where I'm getting the extra money, right? So now I also need to add my financing spend. So if I keep that 5% of financing spend, what we're going to see is that I've got a total spend of 59,000 instead of the 54,000. But my net profit is higher, because if I take my gross profit of 290 minus my total spend, my acquisition cost, I see a net profit of 231. So just because I offered financing, this business in this scenario with very conservative numbers did almost $42,000 more in net profit. So I hope that you'll take a look at financing seriously. The reason that we spend time going through this module is because there are a ton of franchisees that absolutely will not look at financing because they get hung up on this. I've got to spend 5% on dealer fees. I've got to spend 5%. I'm losing margin. And it's not the way to look at it. You're actually making more money. So maybe your average margin, let's say that your average margin is 45, you're selling at a 45% gross margin, and maybe on average, because you offered financing, it goes to a 43% gross margin. But because you're running more jobs at a higher average job size, the financing is actually paying for itself. So in terms of net numbers, you're putting more money in the bank. And isn't that what's really important, is to put more money in the bank? Okay, so I hope that you'll take a serious look at financing. I hope that you'll offer it to your customers, not so that not for me, but so that you put more money in your bank account. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and look forward to working with you in another module.